What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to the NCPL Season 4. The season is over. If you haven't seen the final battle, please do check it out. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit in this Afterthoughts video, so if you don't want to know the result, and if you don't know it yet, you're going to be spoiled of it. So, there's your warning. This video, I'm going to be talking about the season as a whole, what I learned about myself, my Pokemon style, people, leagues that I like, and talk about future plans with Pokemon and League Battle. Trying to chill a little bit. I actually am recording this just a bit after the finals battle. So the first thing I want to talk about is that finals match against Manu, which is probably, result aside, one of the better better battles of the entire season. Not just of my own or just of Manu's, but probably the entire season. It's a really good match. So definitely check it out. But we ended up losing, which was really unfortunate. Looking back on it, I actually think I played really well. I think I did a good job of scouting for stuff, or like anticipating stuff like a Bonberry, Synchro Noise, trying to anticipate certain sets, like all these different things. I think I did a pretty good job at accounting for it, but more so playing around it. I think I was able to make some good plays. I tried to account for as much as I could have. I do think rolls really played a pretty big role. In the match. I think we would talk about it a little bit afterwards, and that roll on Kyurem with Raikou, the calc, I actually got it right here. He had 64 Spadef EVs, so when he was at 18%, this is, it was a 70% chance about for us to knock him out at that point. And that was based on the roll from Dragon Claw we got before. I don't know if that was a relatively good roll or not, but that would have been game-changing. That would have been game-changing. Also, for those of you wondering, if I had, 32 more special attack EVs, I would have done a minimum of 0.5% more. So it's not like there's a huge difference between the amount of special attack I invested and whatnot. But I think that was really the pivotal moment in the game, because if Kyurem died there, Raikou just won. It lived any hit behind a Reflect from Lopunny, and at +1 just swept through his team. So I really do think that was pivotal, right? And it put me in the back for a long time. It made it so that his prep could come through, that he had the opportunity to even go for stuff like V-Create with Victini, which was really cool prep on his part, don't get me wrong. But I do feel a little bit frustrated about that. At the end of the day, though, what are the consequences, right? I still get second place, which is still, a great spot in the league. And I don't think anybody thinks less of me as a battler as a result of this match. Nor do I think Manu is going to hold it over my head and be like, oh, like I'm better than you because I beat you in this one moment. I think like a majority of the time I end up winning that match just based on that role alone. But it's not like Manu played poorly either. I think because he was in the lead, he was able to play safer because of that pivotal moment. I do think one thing that got to me a little bit was seeing people in the chat say things like, without knowing, that I was actually anticipating a lot of this stuff, like Synchro Noise or Habanberry. Like, it's not like it completely caught me off guard. Like, I anticipated it, I accounted for it. Dragon Claw, even if he has Habanberry, Thunderbolt will knock it out afterwards. So it does always annoy me a little bit when people are like, oh my god, for like whoever I'm playing, when it's something I did account for, I'm not too surprised by. But overall, it was still a really fun match, and I think it was a really cool conversation afterwards. We shared sets and everything, and, of all the people to potentially win the league, I thought it would be me, Manu, or Sam. And speaking of those other battlers, those are probably my favorite matches this season. If you haven't seen them, those are definitely the matches to check out. Me versus Sam in Week 2, and then in playoffs, me versus Manu in Week 12, and then in the finals. They're great, incredible matches, really well played, I think, on both parts. Some really interesting team prep, some really intense turns, and yeah, would highly recommend checking those out. Now, moving on from the finals match, let's talk about the season as a whole. Overall, I think this was a pretty solid season. My losses, what were they? They were to Sam in Week 2, which I think was overall a really good match. I was really frustrated after that match because I felt like I was outplaying Sam each turn, and it just didn't turn out in the end. Like, I felt like I had to work so much harder to get to the same sort of normal point that Sam did because of his team. But after talking with him and everything, I realized, he actually played incredibly well. He prepped super well. He was very much in my head the whole time and thought he was playing really well as well. And I can, reconcile that. And yeah, moved on from that just fine. You know, Sam, of course, deserves that win without a doubt. I lost to Evan. Honestly, I think that was just me being careless. I'd woken up and wasn't really calcing things and clicking things really quickly. I incorrectly did some calcs didn't account for the rain. It was just really bad on my part. And at the same time, like, I don't feel like I genuinely really lost that match, or like I earned, or like Evan earned that win per se. I feel like I definitely could have and should have won that match. And overall, we still won plenty of matches. We got plenty of 6-0s, like a lot of 6-0s, a lot of 5-0s. I learned a lot about my playstyle, right? Like, I really like bulky backbones. I really do. I like that sort of reliable switch-in, that ability to scout, that sponge. Toxapex was so great. I was so afraid of using it earlier in the season, but the idea of just having a regenerator mon that is so bulky is so nice. I really, really enjoy being able to pivot through defensive mons like, you know, Gliscor, Toxapex, Porygon 2, you know, Bronzong. Bronzong came through again this season. It was great to use. Mons that didn't quite live up to what I anticipated. Reuniclus, Mimikyu, even Bulu to an extent. Bulu is nice and it has this really cool role, but I didn't end up finding as many opportunities to use it as much as I wanted. Reuniclus was a lot more, it wasn't quite as bulky as I really anticipated. So it was difficult to fit it on a team, especially with Psychic being a, you know, not great defensive typing. I think something, you know, season as a whole aside, I think I played pretty well on average, and I learned quite a bit. I got to use like a lot of different mons. The one mon I didn't ever use, Pangoro, was actually what I was going to use against Darude. I should actually show that team now that I think about it. Let's pull up Showdown. Because, yeah, I actually had built a team and everything. It was this team. The first mon I wanted to bring was Pangoro. It was Life Orb SD knockoff Drain Punch, Metronome Greninja, you know, leftovers, CM Substitute, Raikou, Trace, Volt Beam, and then, of course, you know, some T-Spikes and Toxapex and all that. But it was a really cool team. I really wanted to use Pangoro. I really wanted to abuse Trick Room more, but honestly, Trick Room is just so tough. It's so tough when the team that you're going up against can prep for it. Now that I think about it, I probably should have gone for more offensive Trick Room every now and then. But I don't know. It's difficult to set up. It's a lot more risk, a lot higher risk reward. Not really up my alley. I like the more consistent scouting over the long term, being able to make plays that put myself in a better position and chipping away at teams. And that's what I ended up defaulting to most of, you know, the latter half of the season with, you know, Pex, Gliscor, Bronzong, Porygon 2, get on my rocks, get on my T-Spikes, trap things with Infestation, chip away at them with Scalds or Gyro Balls or Earthquakes or U-Turn, and then, you know, sweep with something like Volcarona or Raikou or Garchomp. Overall, you know, Mega Scizor, I still love the mon. I still love it. I think this league in particular, with having 13 mons to prep for, it's just too difficult. It's just too difficult to bring in mons that have 4 times weaknesses, in my opinion. It's just, you almost have to bring a berry because they have so many different mons they can pull from that run those 4 times weakness moves. And if your Mega is 4 times weak to something, then it's going to be that much more difficult because you can't really afford to have that berry. And then you have to scout even more. And when you're already scouting, it makes it that much more difficult. So Mega Scizor, I didn't end up utilizing that much this season. It's still a really good mon. I still really like it a lot, and I think it does fit with my playstyle, but only when the opponent's teams are a bit more limited in the types of moves and mons they can bring. And I'll get into that more later. Toxapex, absolutely loved it. T-Spikes are something I want on every draft team in the future. Regenerator mon is something I want on every team in the future. Toxapex, absolutely loved using it. Absolutely loved it. Garchomp, I still really enjoy Garchomp. It's a great mon. I do think I would have liked to have it as a Z-mon. I think having a faster Z-mon would have been better than having Bulu as my secondary Z-mon. But if I brought it, I would have definitely brought it more if I could use it as a Z-mon to go for something like Devastating Drake or, you know, Tectonic Rage or Acid Downpour or whatever it may be. I still like its speed tier a lot. Same reasons I liked it before. Shaman I had higher hopes for. It's just that when I was going for bulk, it never was bulky enough to be, you know, that bulky. And when I was going for offense, it didn't hit quite hard enough to warrant bringing it to offense. It was in a bit of an in-between. I think it's a great compromise Pokemon that would fit better on a more limited draft. Reuniclus, great Trick Room setter. I think it would have really thrived under more Trick Room offense. I don't like that its defensive typing is, Psychic, which leaves it weak to a lot of different things. It really has to take a lot of hits to do damage, and that, opens it up to being crit and everything. So not a big fan of using it overall. I think it is better if you don't have other stuff like Bronzong on average. Next up, Volcarona. Really enjoyed using Volcarona. Really scary mon. I really wanted to bring it during the finals match, but I just couldn't get myself to bring it. I just really couldn't. It's tough with rocks, obviously, but if you have reliable, Defog or Rapid Spin, I think that's something I really wanted on my team, Rapid Spin. But I just had Defog on really Gliscor, maybe Mega Scizor, but both those mons were tough to bring each week because of the Fortug's weaknesses and having so many mons in the opponent's team that could bring those, moves. Gliscor, really liked Gliscor. Overall, great mon to have. Great rock setter, U-turn, earthquake, great speed tier, reliable recovery, even knockoff. I never used an offensive SD facade set, but I definitely wanted to. Would definitely try and draft it again. Raikou. I really enjoyed using Raikou. I really like Raikou. It's my favorite Pokemon of all time. And I didn't get to do quite as much as I wanted to with it this season, which is really unfortunate. But I do think it's a great Volt Switcher, momentum getter, and potential setup sweeper towards the end of the game. It's got a great speed tier as well. I definitely am considering drafting Raikou again. Bulu I really liked, but not quite enough to warrant drafting again, I would say. It's, at pick 8, it was a great value pick, but I don't know. It's really great with Toxapex. I think when I didn't have to fear a really strong steel type or a really strong poison type, it was a really cool bring. It's just weak to so much, and when you can prep for it, it makes it that much more difficult. It's really cool on the really bulky backbones I had though, so that was pretty neat. The one time I did bring Banded Bulu was so fun. It was so fun getting to click Banded Woodhammer, but without really consistently bringing Trick Room, that wasn't happening often. Next up, Bronzong. Yeah, Bronzong is a staple. It's got great defensive typing. I love using Bronzong. It's kind of all there is to really say about it. Great rock setter, screens, potentially be Trick Room and boom. You can still hit decently hard with Gyro Ball or Future Sight or Psychic or whatnot. So definitely appreciated it. Pangoro, again, really only there to abuse Trick Room, so never really ended up using it, sadly. It isn't quite bulky enough to tank hits. It's more of a trade mon, but Porygon 2, absolutely loved using Porygon 2. It's really knockoff weak, which is unfortunate, but when it's in there, it's good. It's really good. I loved its coverage. I loved its reliable taking hits on both sides. I loved that having like a both physical and special sponge on my team. Really enjoyed it. Analytic helps out a lot. Trace can be really neat too. Greninja, it's still not quite strong enough to warrant using. You almost always have to bring a Life Orb on it if you want to do any damage. And if your opponent's team has reliable recovery, like don't even bother. It's just not strong enough. But it is cool. I don't know. It's very opponent team specific. Mimikyu, I didn't quite use as much as I probably should have. It's a really cool mon, but again, it just was never really, I don't know, outclassed, or never really outclassed anything else I could bring. It didn't quite do enough offensive damage to warrant bringing, when like any steel type really kind of walls it, in my opinion. But looking at my team, what do I want for future drafts? I definitely want a mon with Heal Bell. That's like the one thing I absolutely wanted. I think Shaman was the only mon that had aromatherapy. That's what it was. But Shaman, like I said, very difficult to fit on my team most of the time. So I really wish I had a more reliable Heal Bell user. That's something I overlooked in my draft, and overall ended up, hurting me quite a bit, especially when I'm relying on stuff like Toxapex and Porygon 2, which don't want to get burnt or poisoned or whatnot. So yeah, that's like definitely get a Heal Beller. Second of all, Rapid Spin or more defog options, right? My only hazard removal was Gliscor and Mega Scizor. And like so many more mons get defog now. that I really should have picked up at least one more defogger, because that would have been incredibly helpful. Or a rapid spinner. Something like Starmie I think would be really neat as a status absorber and a rapid spinner. Something with reliable recovery that I could run a bulkier set with, or a more offensive set with. That's something I am definitely considering going forward. So there's that. What else? I drafted, and I didn't draft a setup sweeper. A very specific type of setup sweeper. Something that boosts an attack stat and speed at the same time. I think that's incredibly important. I had, SD Mimikyu, SD Mega Scizor, Calm Mind Raikou, SD Tapu Bulu, SD Garchomp, SD Gliscor, maybe Rock Polish Gliscor. But I needed something that had something like Dragon Dance or Quiver Dance. Having a setup sweeper like that is incredibly important. And Volcarona filled that gap towards the end of the season, which was really nice. But I should have just had that, right on the draft. I think I should not have committed to Trick Room. I think Trick Room is really niche, really team dependent, and not something that you should rely on more so for offense. Because my fast offense is not bad, but it's certainly not strong enough to be really called great offense in my opinion. Outside of that, spikes. I wish I had regular spikes, more hazards. I think there was a lot of pressure on Gliscor this season to be a defogger, to have reliable recovery and roots, to potentially get up rocks, because it was pretty much Bronzong or Gliscor. And I think having a little bit more utility in other mons, whether it's Heal Bell, Rapid Spin, Defog, Spikes, Rocks, T-Spikes, those would have been incredibly helpful to have on my team. So I think I'm going to go into future seasons thinking about those things a little bit more. Overall, I really like the kind of bulky play of having a really solid defensive core of 3 or 4 mons. One or two of those, maybe not both of them, could be pivots. Also, I don't know if I remember to loop the music. Shout out to Persona 4. Haven't quite played the game yet, but it's looped. Yeah, I think having, 3 or 4 really bulky core mons plus, a pivot, and then maybe one of those bulky core mons is also a pivot. And then having one dedicated offensive mon is a really cool, paradigm for me. I really enjoy that style of play. Having something that can break through opposing walls, but also being able to chip away at things to outlast other things. That definitely is my sort of safer, in my opinion, kind of smarter play style. So definitely going to try and emulate that going forward. Speaking of going forward, I don't know when my next league is going to be. I am going to be incredibly busy over the next few months, let alone this summer. And then my second year of med school is going to be incredibly busy too. I know I've been invited to a couple leagues actually by a couple friends, Sam and Manu. And I really want to join them because league play is probably still my favorite way of playing the game. It really is. But I'm just too busy to do it. So I don't know when my next league will be. So can't really give you guys a date to look forward to that. Those of you that do watch these. What else? I improved my mentality a lot, I think, towards the end of the season. I put so much pressure on myself to win these matches. I really put a lot of pressure to spend a lot of time team building, to think of every possible scenario, to run through calcs, and then to, in the battle, play perfectly, to account for any possibilities, and then to win, right? Win or lose. I put a ton of pressure on myself to play as well as I possibly could have, and really, I didn't need to. It was an unhealthy mindset going into matches, being that ridiculously nervous, and not looking to necessarily have as much fun, as more so being afraid of losing. So that was not good, and I think I worked on that a lot towards the end of the season in particular, and it's helped improve my experience overall. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to not let other people think you've gotten worse, or let other people that you're better than think, or let other people think that someone you lost to is better than you, even though you're a better battler than them. Because I do honestly think I'm one of the best, if not the best battler in the league. Some people might call me out for that, but I think it really does come down to, at this point, myself, Manu, Sam, and then Max is up there. He's slipped a little bit, but I think he has the potential up there too. And I don't know. I think I'm the best, but of course I do, right? But I don't want other people thinking, less of me as a battler, or something like that. And that sort of outside pressure is something I really need to work on. Not letting that get to me. Not being afraid to lose, but looking forward to winning is something I wanted to work on. And the thing is, when I did play poorly, when something did go wrong, when I did lose, though it wasn't frequent, it would ruin me. It would ruin me for like hours. And that's just something I can't even afford to do. I can't afford to spend as much time team building as I did before. I can't afford to spend as much time prepping for matches as I did before. I can't afford to spend as much time, thinking about matches after they're done as I used to be able to. I'm ridiculously busy. And so I needed to fix that. And I think I did a pretty good job of that, which is something I'm pretty proud of. And yeah, overall, as far as leagues go, this was probably one of my best league experiences as a whole. I really liked my team. I think the roster should be smaller. We shouldn't have 13 mons. Maybe 9 or 10 is a good balance. As far as rules go, it was fine. I didn't think there was anything too crazy. I think Deoxys Speed should be banned because it's such a pain to prep for. I think maybe fewer teams overall, so it's a bit shorter. But I think overall things were handled. I think things were handled pretty well. It was a much more positive experience overall than has been in the past, is what I would say. Yeah. So let me know what you guys have to say about the season. Which mons were your favorite on my team? Which battles you like the most, or if there's a particular mon you think I should use in the future that you think I'd really like. Let me know in the comment section below. I don't know. It's always fun playing League. It's always fun being the anime villain because I always am. Right? Everyone's always trying to keep me from winning. I think it was like in the very first week, and Chase was like, "Oh, who's like the person that usually like wins these, or blah blah blah, or who's like the number one like expected?" And then James and Manu were like, "Nick, he won like the last season." And then they were like, "Oh," and they're like, "What about the last one?" It was like, "Nick won that too." And then like, "What about the last season?" It's like, "Oh, like Nick won the co-op league too." So the rule of thumb is don't let Nick win. So I think it's really fun, when it's all playful and everyone's like, I gotta beat everyone. I gotta stay up to keep up with being the anime antagonist. And I don't know. It's like the pressure of being up top. As long as it's healthy, as long as it's checked and it's not too big of an actual pressure, and as long as it's in good fun. I almost never have anyone cheering for me in these matches. I always have Lizzie. That's a given. And what's nice is every now and then I know Manu is cheering for me, and every now and then I know Max or Sam is cheering for me. But outside of that, I don't think anyone really ever cheers for me, which is okay. It's okay. I'm the anime villain, right? And I know it's not a personal thing, so that's what matters. But overall, it was fun. I will try to get involved in a league again in the future. Just don't expect it for a good half a year or so, is what I would say. Maybe longer. Who knows? If you guys have any opportunities, if you guys think there's a league I should join, let me know. But it definitely won't be for a while. So it's kind of sad to see these go. But I am feeling pretty Pokemon'd out, so I can go without it for a bit. And you guys can probably look forward to something else on the weekends. So you guys can enjoy that. But anyways, I'm just rambling at this point. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really do enjoy seeing the comments that you guys do leave, and seeing that people do still watch these team builders, the battles and everything, and to see that some people are even learning from them and getting involved in competitive Pokemon from them too. That means a lot to me. I'm really glad that I've been able to influence you guys in that sense. And hopefully those of you that have watched have at least learned. I think I'm a good battler, and I hope that seeing how I approach each turn, how I approach team prep, etc. is starting to rub off a little bit and maybe influence your own play. But anyways, until the next league, or until whatever video of mine you decide to watch next, this has been Night Zero, and this mission is complete.